Remember this November when Butterball made headlines because its employees were messing inappropriately with the turkey's giblets? What if I was to tell you that there's some cattle in the state of Florida that pose a health risk to you? I'm going to do you one better than the news and tell you the important part. I was doing some reading in a 5-year report from a Superfund property, and what I came across is they're grazing cattle on a known Superfund site. Make no mistake about it. They know the cattle are on the most polluted part of this 3,000-acre property. See, they have terms that me and you wouldn't normally know. Superfund site is the actual contaminated part. Superfund area is the area around the Superfund site. It's about 54 acres. Superfund site is 9 acres. There's cattle actively grazing on the Superfund site. Looks like they're doing more than just grazing. They got a whole cattle operation out here. And not only do they have a whole cattle operation out here, this land is so polluted, they got a whole periodic table out here on this property. This is where Hillsborough County back in the 70s dumped 16 million gallons approximately of oil and sewer sludge. So there's all kinds of nasty stuff out here, including new chemicals like 1,4-dioxane. We don't really know what's out here because they have this fascinating thing called emerging contaminants. That means there could be contaminants like they found in a municipality's drinking water this November. It's important to note that not only are they running cattle on a known Superfund site, but they're trying to develop this property into 1,900 homes, an industrial warehouse, and mixed-use commercial. This property was a former phosphate mine. Across the street is Medard Park, where I've already found high radiation readings, and Hillsborough County sent a specialist in there who also found radiation in the park. But the commissioner, Josh Woostel, tried to downplay the pollution. They're chomping at the bit to develop this to put more residents on polluted land. They don't care the fact that Oak Ridge and Grassland was built on a similar site that was mined around the same time frame and caused adverse health effects to its residents. They also don't seem to care about the deed restrictions and institutional controls set in place to ensure the public safety. They continue to run cattle on a Superfund site. These cattle are being sold for meat at market. And from my conversations and emails with Teresa Pepe, Shelby Johnson, and Hillsborough County EPC, nobody, and I mean nobody, is checking these cattle to see if there's a daisy chain effect. You know, there's pollutants in the ground, the pollutants get in the grass, and then the grass gets in the cows, and now the pollutants are in the cows. And don't say that can't happen, because in Maine, this happened. They were telling the hunters in Maine, discard your turkeys and wildlife that was hunted in a certain area up there, because they found on a dairy farm that the cattle had forever chemicals in it. So Bobby Kennedy, before you tell us to go ahead and fry our French fries in beef tallow, make sure the beef tallow ain't been raised on a Superfund site, Mr. Kennedy. I decided to make this video because I received a text message from a nearby resident of this place that told me that one of the property owners, he didn't know the guy owned the property at the time, knows how polluted this property is, knows that it ain't worth 2 dead flies to run cattle out here. So this property is not only across the street from Medard Park, but also the former Pleasant Grove landfill. If you followed me for a long time, you know that I covered the old Pleasant Grove landfill, and it was out of compliance because at the time the Florida Department of Environmental Regulations wanted no trespassing signs and to acknowledge that there was a landfill there. Now when we turn around, Hillsborough County has been watching my videos because there is now no trespassing signs on the old landfill, but it doesn't acknowledge that this is a landfill. So you all are still out of compliance with what your original agreement was. I'm Matt the Welder. God bless America. And I really miss the old cowboy philosopher himself, Will Rogers.